post on petrodollar crisis has gone viral on social media in the recent days. The post said Saudi Arabia has discontinued an agreement with United States that stipulated that all payments related to crude oil and other oil products transactions should be done in US dollar. The agreement was signed by the United States with Saudi Arabia on June 9, 1974, and that expired on this June 9th. Now, this is an earth shattering development. This is a historic development as far as global economy is concerned, but the Western media has not reported on the event. Actually, they have turned a blind eye towards this development. The Indian media has discussed the issue, but the issue has not hit headlines even in Indian media. What could be the reason for ignoring this historic development? What is the history of the agreement between Saudi Arabia and United States? What will be its impact on global economy, as well as what will be the future of dollar? How is it going to impact India? Actually, I plan to do a separate video on how this development will impact India. Now, let's look into the details. Welcome to Insights. This is Hari Kumar. Now, let's start with the history of the agreement between Saudi Arabia and United States. The agreement was signed, as I said, on June 9th, 1974. At that time, Richard Nixon was the president of United States, and United States was going through an economic slowdown or a crisis, which was brought about by the decision of OPEC, including Saudi Arabia, not to sell crude oil to Western countries. And out of those countries, United States and United Kingdom were mainly focused or targeted. Now, what was the reason for that? The reason was the fourth Arab-Israeli conflict. The Arab countries wanted to retake the territories they lost in third Arab-Israeli conflict, in which Israel won. But the outcome of the fourth Arab-Israeli conflict was also not different. Israel won the war. Now, even then, Saudi Arabia knew very well that the United States was a friend of Israel, but they were not willing to take any punitive action against United States or other Western countries. But at that time, United States provided state-of-the-art weapons worth over $2 billion to Israel. Now that angered OPEC countries and irked Saudi Arabia. It was then that Saudi Arabia decided not to sell oil to United States. At that time, actually, United States was also hit by another decision of President Nixon, because he decided to discontinue the gold standards or the pegging of US currency to gold at that point of time. And that created some confusion. Now, when we refer to US dollar, even at that time, US dollar was the leading currency in the world. That was a result of a decision taken in 1944 at a meeting by more than 40 countries at a place known as Bretton Woods. The agreement is now known as Bretton Woods Agreement. That agreement made dollar the leading currency of the world, or the de facto reserve currency of the world. By that decision, all the Western countries decided or agreed to peg their currencies with dollar, and so dollar became very important. And dollar was in turn pegged or connected to gold. Now, it was that pegging was that Richard Nixon did away with. Now that created confusion and dollar was hit by the decision. Now it was at that point of time that the oil embargo by OPEC happened. Now it was a double whammy to United States. Now US economy was in a almost in a recession following these two developments, and US didn't have enough energy resources at that time. Now they were depending on imports. Almost 80% of their imports were from Middle East, and that was also mainly from Saudi Arabia. So the OPEC decision hit them very hard. Now US was in deep trouble. They wanted to come out of this, to ride out the crisis, and they sent their best man to Saudi Arabia, who was Henry Kissinger, the foreign secretary. Now Kissinger, a a diplomatic guru, he met the Saudi king and he struck a deal. The deal was Saudi Arabia thereafter Saudi Arabia will limit all payments for oil transactions to US dollar. In return, the United States will provide security and all modern weaponry to Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia, it became the responsibility of United States to protect Saudi Arabia from any external threat or internal threat. And by the way, there was also one more clause in the agreement, and by which United States had the liability to protect the ruling family, that is the Saud family. Now, meant that US had to turn a blind eye towards all the violations on democracy in Saudi Arabia. Now, that has been religiously followed by the United States. Both were very close friends. Now, why Saudi Arabia decided all on a sudden, or is it all on a sudden, to discontinue the agreement, which was apparently beneficial to both the countries? The reason could be some of the reports suggest that US President Joe Biden is not in very good terms with Saudi Prince Salman bin Mohammed. Mohammed bin Salman MBS. Now, President Biden always wants to directly interact with King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, who is the king of Saudi Arabia. But now the power center in Saudi Arabia is MBS, or Mohammed bin Salman. Now he was irked by the lack of proper respect or interest from United States. That could be one reason. Now the second reason could be US has been using dollar as a weapon in the recent days, and that has caused antipathy to many countries, including China and Russia. And both these countries have become closer to Saudi Arabia at present. Especially China is now very close to Saudi Arabia. That means that China, which is the second biggest economy in the world, is there to help Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia might have felt that they were giving more than what they were getting from United States. Now there are other reasons also. A report said that Houthis, the rebel group based in Yemen, who are Shiite Muslims, have been removed from the list of terrorist organizations by the United States, and this poses a very grave threat to security of Saudi Arabia. And this could be also one of the reasons why Saudi Arabia was unhappy with the United States. Now, anyway, with dealing in dollar from oil, this is going to be Saudi Arabia has expressed their firm decision very clearly. Now, this is going to be of great impact to dollar because, as I said, the US decision to weaponize dollar, like they will freeze the assets of those countries who have deposited in United States in US Treasury bonds in dollar, not to return the money, that has broken the trust of many countries. Now no country is willing to trust dollar beyond a point. The reports say that in the last few years, foreign reserves, which has been almost in dollar in every country have that reserves dependence on dollar has come down. Now only 59% of uh, reserves in all over the world are in dollar now. 20% is in euro. Even around 5% is in Chinese currency yuan. Now things are changing all over the world. Now there is another important development, which is the rise of BRICS. BRICS is a group which involves Russia, China, India, Brazil, South Africa, and other emerging countries. Now they have decided to develop their own payment system, and actually India and Russia are now doing transactions in ruble and Indian rupee. Now India is buying oil from Russia in Indian rupee. Now China is buying oil from Russia in yuan, and Russian President Vladimir Putin in a recent interview said that earlier of all the foreign transactions of Russia, almost 80% was done in dollar, but now only 13% is in dollar. So Russia has almost become free from the dependence on dollar, and actually they are more dependent on yuan at present. Now this is going to create a very serious impact. This could be a major shift in equilibrium in world economy. Now that means people are not going to buy dollar from United States anymore. Now US as a nation depends on selling dollar more than export of any other items. This is a very intriguing situation for the common man. Actually, the United States, the export of United States, the biggest export of United States is their currency, because every country needs US dollar to do transactions. Dollar is almost like gold, but that dependence is now changing. Many reports say that many banks in all over the world are now buying gold instead of dollar. If that becomes a trend and that catches up, and especially the decision of Saudi Arabia not to limit payments in dollar, US dollar, now that means that some of the major buyers of oil, for example, China and India are the biggest buyers of oil. Now, if Saudi Arabia decides to do oil transactions with India at least partly, because Saudi Arabia also imports goods from India, though Saudi Arabia is not the biggest importer of goods from India, their imports from India is quite significant. Last year, that is in 2023, Saudi Arabia imported merchandise products and other goods and services worth over 10 billion US dollars from India. Now think about if those transactions are done in rupee. Now India needs to buy oil from Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia needs to buy other goods from India or other commodities from India. Now if that is done in Saudi Arabian Riyal and Indian rupee, now there is no need for dollar. Now India has already started working on it, and some of those transactions with UAE are done in Indian rupee. Now if an alternate BRICS payment system comes into existence, which BRICS is now working on it, and the preliminary steps are or have already been completed. Now if that becomes a reality, the place of dollar will fall significantly. Now it will lead to an economic crisis in United States, because now United States has one of the biggest debts in the world among different countries. For them, payment is easy because of the high value of dollar. Now if the value of dollar plummets, it will become difficult for United States to pay their debts also. Now this will create even trade imbalance in United States. Now their inflation is going to shoot up. it is going to be a very tough time for United States. But don't think that all on a sudden United States is going to suffer, or the dollar is will be completely or obliterated from the world economic transactions, because it will take at least a decade to totally replace dollar with another payment system. And as of now, I mean at present, there may not be that big threat. So this is why the United States is influencing media not to discuss the issue, because they don't want the world to become worried about what is going to happen. If there are no serious discussions about this issue, it means that at least for the time being, the world will not think about seriously think about an alternate payment system, and many will continue with the existing payment system based on dollar. Now, this is the reason why US has influenced media throughout the world. But anyway, they cannot influence media and other institutions in the world for long, because it is in the interests of economic interests of all major economies in the world to sever ties with the US dollar and to shift to their own currencies. Now, that has already been happening, as I said earlier. The BRICS had already initiated some kind of system. Russia and China have been doing that. India has been doing that, and many more countries will do that in the coming days. But perhaps US wants to slow down the transition, or they want to buy more time. That is why they don't want their own media houses to ignore this issue for the time being. Now, we will discuss more about the issue in the coming days, and especially about the impact of this decision on India. India is certainly going to benefit, but don't think that India is there. It is going to be a windfall for India. The country will definitely benefit. We will focus on that issue in the next episode. Now, if you are interested in such topics, please subscribe. Thank you for listening. Goodbye. See you through the other video.